Okay. First of all, I would just like to let everybody know who I am. My name is Shari Grant, and I am currently, for the next couple of weeks, the governor of Western Canada region. I will very shortly be passing on my title to Shirley Stewart, who will be joining us on this call in a little while. And I would like to welcome everybody here today to the latest edition of Sharing Soroptimist Stories Through Friendship. And we are very pleased to have with us new Soroptimist Nazia Ijaz, who will be telling us about her career in DEI and her work with the various United Nations agencies in Thailand and Vietnam. Now, there are a couple of people on this call who are not Soroptimists, and so I just wanted to give them a sort of a brief overview of what Soroptimist is and who we are. So, Soroptimist is a global volunteer organization that provides women and girls, especially those facing obstacles, with access to the education and training they need to achieve economic empowerment. Soroptimist was founded in 1921 in Oakland, California, at a time when women were not permitted to join service organizations. Our name, loosely translated from the Latin, means best for women. Today, our federation, Soroptimist International of the Americas, has over 25,000 members and supporters in countries across North America, Latin America, and the Pacific Rim. We are one of five federations that make up Soroptimist International, which has clubs in more than 120 countries throughout the world. And our region, Western Canada region, currently has 17 clubs that go from British Columbia to Saskatchewan and an online club that has members from across Canada. So we are very pleased to welcome Soroptimists from around the world and other guests here today for this call today on sharing Soroptimist stories. And I'm going to pass it over to Darlene Jameson, who is our region friendship chair, to just give us a little bit of housekeeping information.
Welcome. We're so glad that you've been able to join us today. If you haven't already done so, please indicate in the chat where you're from, if you are a Soroptimist, which club, and if you have a particular role on the executive, please let us know. And also feel free to include a land acknowledgement. And as Governor Shari had mentioned, we've been doing our Sharing Soroptimist Stories um, actually 3 or 4 times a year, and we started 5 years ago. And this is our 14th call, and we invite our Soroptimist friends, sisters, and also our friendship clubs to join us. And we welcome new members. And Nazia, you actually did a lunch and learn, and after that, you became a Soroptimist for Victoria West Shore. So, welcome. Please tell us more about yourself. And also, this call is recorded, and there will be some resources that will be sent out. If you haven't already done so, please mute. If you do not wish to be visible on our recording, please turn your camera off. And again, welcome to Sharing Soroptimist Stories Through Friendship. Nazia.
Thank you. Do you see my screen now? I just shared it.
Yes, we do.
Okay, sounds good. So thank you. Thank you, Governor Shari and Darlene, for the warm welcome and the introduction, and the Soroptimist International Western Canada region for this opportunity, and to all of you, taking out time on the weekend to attend this call. And I'm really happy and feel grateful to share stories of advocacy for women and girls. And for me, stories really shed that light, right? Both not only on the issues faced by women and girls, but also on the opportunities that allows us to make a difference. So in addition to the brief intro there, I'd also like to share a little bit more about myself, and I'd like to use the analogy of a tree to share about myself. My roots are in Pakistan, where I was born. The years I spent growing up in Thailand for almost 3 decades shape, my way of being, and thus forming that, bark of my tree. And the opportunity now to live in Canada for the last 5 years feels like that branch, growing and reaching forward. So when I'm asked, and it's a question that I'm asked quite often, is Nazia, where are you from? So through this lens, my interpretation of that question becomes, where is home? So today the answer is Victoria, BC. And therefore, I would like to start my presentation with a land acknowledgement. And land acknowledgements in Canada exist to recognize Indigenous peoples as the original stewards of the land, to name the specific nations whose territories we occupy, and to situate ourselves honestly within the history and the ongoing reality of colonization. So, therefore, with respect and humility, I'd like to acknowledge that I am joining from the unceded territories of the Kusepsum, Lekwungen, Cheniw, and West Sachsen people. I'm an invited guest on these lands, and I am committed to listen, learn, and unlearn as my part of my reconciliation journey. And there is a lot of wisdom and experience that you all bring with you. And I really hope we can create a safe space together to enable each other to share openly. I hope, later in the session, it's not just me talking, but I get an opportunity to listen to some of your stories as well. So we can do this by listening with an open heart and mind, free from judgment, being kind and compassionate to the stories that are being shared, and finally practicing self-awareness and self-care, because when we start talking and sharing stories about gender inequities, the unfair treatment, it can bring about different emotions. So I would suggest that you do what works best for you here, whether it's going for a walk, spending time with your pets, or just even debriefing with a friend. And while I have worked on um, kind of promoting the rights of women and children in my professional capacity, my first lesson on gender equity and advocacy actually was learned at home from my ummi, my mom. And it's, through the way she raised me to believe in myself, and that being a girl didn't make me inferior to boys. And so, therefore, for a young age, I watched my mom speak up for fairness for women and girls. And there is a story that I'd like to share. I have her permission to share this story, is that she did tell me when I was really young that one of my cousins, female cousins in the extended family, who lives and who lived and currently still lives in the village back in Pakistan, really wanted to start working after finishing her studies. And that's when she faced challenges from the men in the house, like her elder brothers, her father, because for them it was like, no, like it's our responsibility to provide, and you should just stay home, and you wanted to study, we let you study, so that's good. But in terms of work, they were hesitant to let her work, and that's when my mom intervened as well, and kind of made her case of supporting her, because what I understand from the story was that it was not so much about my cousin, but it was about how would the society perceive the men of the house, that they have failed to provide, therefore their daughters and sisters have to go out and work. So it was more like reflecting on them, that they have, and this is all due to the gender norms, right? That men and women kind of navigate in societies. So therefore, just watching her, advocate for women, and even for girls in the extended family, not just her own daughters, really instilled in me that passion for equity, and that's something that guides my work even today. And I will be sharing a bit more about advocacy and some more examples and stories. But what is advocacy, right? There's so many definitions out there of advocacy. There's this one particular one that I really like, and this is where it says that advocacy is the deliberate process based on evidence to directly or indirectly influence decision makers, partners, and relevant audiences to support and implement actions that contribute to the fulfillment of rights of women and girls. And it can involve many different things, right? We advocate through raising awareness, like Soroptimist clubs do a lot of conferences and raise awareness, like the DB conference, as well develop new partnerships, negotiating with decision makers, or even generating evidence, right? So you can go and advocate for change, or creating platforms for dialogue, or mobilizing support, right? Through campaigns with the public. And while we have come a long way, right, with respect to the rights of women and girls, Governor Shari did share about how Soroptimist was formed, and all the challenges women were facing back then, uh, and the achievements, right? There are many achievements that women have made across different countries, but evidence shows that we still need to advocate for fairness, justice, and keep reminding and even holding decision makers accountable for upholding the rights of women and girls. And I have some data here. And for example, poverty still has a women's face, right? There is gender gap, women's face gender gap. And even when you look at further, like indigenous women, racialized women, women with disabilities, the gap even gets bigger. And the whole kind of this issue of intimate partner violence, right? In Canada, if we see the numbers there, 1 in 2 women in Canada, age 15 plus, report experiencing intimate partner violence in their lifetime. The global number is 1 in 3, and that's, I think it's physical and sexual and or sexual abuse. Here, this one, the 44% here includes psychological abuse as well. And the unpaid work gap, right? We have women who are doing more unpaid labor at home and having less time for paid work, rest. And as women, we know that these are not just numbers. Unfortunately, these are either some of our own lived realities or realities of the women and girls in our lives. And just give me a second. So for me personally, I feel that I really feel grateful that I've had the opportunity for the last 18 years to work and advance human rights and social change through different organizations. I started as in my early career with UNIFEM, supporting a program on women migrant workers, and I was a junior staff supporting and just learning, right? And I was really lucky to have supervisors back then, like Dr. Jean DiCuna, who is still my mentor today. And yeah, she taught me a lot of advocacy as well, because even though I was a junior staff, she would come and share information with me and tell me like how things are done. Um, then even in UNIFEM a bit later in my career, I also had the opportunity to work on a campaign on ending violence against women and girls. And for this campaign, I kind of was in charge of mobilizing the corporate sector. So working with companies and businesses and on the campaign, which resulted in an in-flight fundraising campaigns with our airline, with a retail store, because retail store in Asia are really big. They have a huge customer base. So even getting that message out to the customer base. And for almost 7 years with the UNICEF in Thailand and Vietnam, I worked on children's rights and business principles. This is really working with the stock exchange, with the chambers of commerce, with different factories in Vietnam to really look at their internal workplace policies and practices. How are female employees treated? How are employees with family and caregiving responsibilities supported in the workplace? And the last 3 years, I'm with the public service here in BC, really promoting the inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility work in the workplace. And this is again involves a lot of trainings, awareness raising materials, looking at what are some of the hiring practices in the organizations and how can we make them more fair. And so this is kind of my journey so far. And for today's um, session, I will take just a, sorry. For today's session, I will just take a little bit of a deeper dive and share a bit more examples and stories relating to unpaid care work. Um, because my recent experience, and also I have some personal stories as well that I'll share. And unpaid work basically involves caring for children, elderly, sick dependents, house chores. And while caregiving can be deeply meaningful, we know that because as caregivers we understand that it helps strengthen families, communities. But when this work isn't shared fairly, uh, it can place a heavy burden on women, especially on women and girls. Right? We know they carry the uneven uh, kind of the workload of unpaid care work, and UN Women has done a lot of research on this, and the data that they share with us shows that women spend over 2.5 times more hours than men on unpaid care work. Even extra hour, and every extra hour of unpaid care work really kind of reduces that opportunity for paid work and higher education. Um, so and we know that, right, due to these additional responsibilities, women are being reported being tired, overwhelmed, even depressed. And I have a personal story that I would like to share here. Because when I moved to Canada 5 years ago, I kind of lost my extended support system, right? Whether it was my mom, dad, and my sister who lived close by, or affordable domestic help. And that's when I realized that, oh, I have to work full time. Uh, do all the house chores and kind of manage everything. And that's when I felt that no, I don't think so. That's fair. And I started having this discussion with my spouse that, even though you've never cooked, you know, can you learn how to cook? This is a life skill, and we both have to start sharing these house chores as well, because I think it's just not fair. And I don't have the support I had, right, back in Asia. So, and that changed a lot for me. Just one life skill that, my spouse embraced happily uh, allows me time to, volunteer with Soroptimist, allows me time after work to be able to go, take care of myself, or go to for any classes after work. And therefore, it's important that we treat and accept household chores as shared responsibility and not just women's work. And I've added the word accept because even for me, I had internalized, right, that this is just my work. So kind of feeling that guilt that I'm not able to do it, or when my spouse was doing it, feeling that guilt that, I should be the one doing it. So I think it took me a bit of time as well to understand that no, it's just work, and we share it because it's not just the cooking bit, right? But it's also, I feel like we kind of have this tendency now that, as especially as moms in South Asian culture, I've seen especially, is that, we want our girls to be independent, financially independent, and then independent other ways. But our boys are still raised to be dependent on daily meals, dependent on clean clothes, right? So how do we start changing that and shifting these gender norms? Um, so this was the personal story that I wanted to share. And on the work front, I had the opportunity when I was with the UNICEF in Vietnam to lead this program with factories in especially the footwear and garment sector. That was the focus of the program. And because the footwear and garment sector uh, is really huge, in Vietnam. A lot of the clothes that we are wearing now are made in Vietnam. There are over 6,000 factories, 3.5 million workers. 80% of the factory workers are women, and 60% of them have children. So I led a program that engaged 11 factories for a year and a half. And they, I think, roughly were employing around 115,000 workers. So I'll share a video, and then I'll share a bit about kind of the advocacy behind this program. So please let me know if you can hear the sound.
Khi Việt Nam đang tập trung rất nhiều các nguồn lực để triển khai thành công cái chương trình nghị sự 2030 và 17 cái mục tiêu phát triển toàn cầu. Một trong những cái nội dung đó là cần phải nâng cao nhận thức cho các doanh nghiệp và cần phải tăng cường năng lực cho các doanh nghiệp để đưa cái quyền trẻ em vào trong cái trọng tâm của các nguyên tắc kinh doanh của hoạt động của mình. Nếu các doanh nghiệp mà không tập trung vào tôn trọng quyền trẻ em và quyền con người, khó mà các doanh nghiệp đó có thể phát triển bền vững được.
In UNICEF Vietnam, we are working with organizations like Vietnam Chambers of Commerce and Industry, CCR, CSR, key brands, companies to promote child rights in business. We strongly encourage businesses to go beyond compliance, go beyond national legislation as part of their corporate social responsibility.
Chúng tôi muốn tạo cơ hội lao động trẻ để làm việc trong điều kiện tốt nhất. Do đó chúng tôi chỉ quyết định là ban hành danh mục, họ chỉ làm được những công việc mà không ảnh hưởng gì đến sự phát triển của cơ thể, tâm sinh lý. Chúng tôi tạo điều kiện cho họ có khả năng đào tạo thêm, biết sử dụng nhiều loại máy móc thiết bị để người ta có thể là đảm nhận ở những vị trí làm việc khác nhau và từ đó có điều kiện nâng cao năng suất lao động và tăng thu nhập cho người lao động.
Em được giải nhất cuộc thi tay nghề thiết kế rộng cấp thành phố. Em cảm thấy rất là vui khi đạt giải nhất, tự hào cho công ty.
For Poland company, we have more than 80% they are female workers. Breastfeeding can bring a lot of benefits for our female workers. Firstly, we are thinking to bring more basic knowledge and concept to the workers in the first stage. And second part, we need to provide more convenience for the workers, especially during the working time, to set the policy allow them to do the breastfeeding, encourage the workers to use the breastfeeding room. And I think that should be the win-win situation for us.
Lúc em chưa có bầu thì em làm cắt, mà em có bầu thì em qua đây em làm nhẹ hơn. Hỗ trợ cho mình, sắp xếp cho em là mình ngồi ghế dựa.
Thì về cái luật Việt Nam hay là những cái yêu cầu khách hàng thì công ty hoàn toàn là tuân thủ những cái vấn đề đó. Thì bên cạnh đó thì công ty cũng có thêm những cái phần trên luật hoặc là trên những cái yêu cầu của khách hàng dành cho những cái phụ nữ thai sản.
Cái dự án của UNICEF thì vừa rồi là kết hợp liên quan đến cái hệ thống nước sạch để cho người lao động dùng trong nhà máy cũng như là có thể mang về để sử dụng tại phòng trọ của mình. Thực tế là công nhân ở các cái khu nhà trọ thì họ dùng cái nước giếng khoan nó sẽ không đảm bảo cho cái vấn đề sức khỏe. Chúng tôi sẽ thay đổi toàn bộ các cái hệ thống liên quan đến hệ thống rửa tay trước khi ăn và cũng sau khi đi vệ sinh của người lao động.
Sẽ sử dụng cái nguồn nước sạch đấy mình mang về mình sử dụng nấu ăn này, đun nước cho con sinh hoạt. Nó sẽ rất là tốt cho bộ phận cá nhân những người mà đi ở trọ như chúng em.
Our aim is to really continue this collaboration with the business sector so they can invest in the well-being of their employees and children through family-friendly workplace policies and practices.
So that's kind of the video of the program. And you see some of the results, right, already in the video, like some of those interventions that those factories put in place. So that range from those breastfeeding, policies and spaces to even that protection of pregnant women with the chairs with the backrest. Because when we were going and having a look, in fact, the chairs for all employees didn't have a backrest. Those were those stools that they would sit on for hours, and at the workstations. And because of this intervention, what this particular factory did was that they just didn't introduce that chair with a backrest for employees, pregnant employees, but
We can't
Nazia, I think
hear you.
we lost your sound. Yeah, still can't hear you.
Hmm.
can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you
Yeah.
now.
Okay. I thought I charged it 100%, but good, I had a backup. So in terms of this scale up, right? Because that's intervention, the purpose of these pilots as well. Like when you advocate, it's like selecting few to work with, but then once there are results and even lessons learned, right? How can then we talk about that with a wider group? And the picture that you see here, it's not captured in the video, but one of the factories even implemented a parenting training program. And what that resulted in was that it started with one factory, but then once the factory was able to implement it, we were able to capture, the good practices, lessons learned. There were more factories that joined the program, and there was that scalability element of the work. And 9 questions for strategic advocacy. So here I would like to just like the example of the factory program, kind of translate that and kind of respond to these questions. So when we are advocating, the first thing is like, what do we want, right? For the factory program, what the organization wanted was positive health and early childhood development outcomes for children, protections for women, children and young workers in factories. Who can make it happen? Right. In this case, it was the factory owners, it was the international brands that had a bit of leverage on these factories, especially I think the ones that purchase a lot from a particular factory was the main buyer had more leverage, and the chambers of commerce, the footwear and garment associations. And what do they need to hear as well, right? While the organization's focus and messaging was more on women and children, what the factories wanted to hear in this case was more on how does this intervention impact employee retention, reduce turnover, and employee absenteeism, and um, and who do they need to hear it from? That's also important, right? Is the organization or the source credible? In this case, this was from an organization that's credible, international, works on the issues, has the tools, has the resources and expertise. And the other question is, how can we make sure they hear it? Right? Because in this case, with the factory owners, the communication channel was more in-person meetings. I had to go and meet them in person. But when it came to messaging that was for the factory workers, it had to be very different messaging because of the literacy level and even what did they want to hear. For example, for the breastfeeding bit, focus groups had to be conducted with the factory workers to even understand what are some of the barriers in terms of knowledge, but also practice. And that resulted in generating of a flyer with infographic, key messaging that's addressing some of those concerns and needs. And again, looking at as at an organizational level, looking at what resources do we have, and what else do we need. In this case, the organization had me as an employee, as an um, um, a resource there to work. But in terms of my capacity to engage 11 factories was limited, right? So that's where a business consulting was brought in. And I worked closely with the business consulting. So they would send in people to the factories. I would join them on and off, or even look at some of the materials that they were developing and give them feedback and inputs, or have that kind of engagement and touch point with the factory executives. And how do we even begin to take action, right? So for in this case, what was identified that if we really want to advocate for some change in a factory setting, we have to have a program for engagement. And it's not like a one-off training on an issue, because that's what a lot of organizations were doing. It was like, even nonprofits were going in, doing one training, one session, and leaving, but there wasn't a bit of this long-term engagement. And finally, how do we tell if it's working? In this case, there was a final report that was developed. There was this video that was part of the final report capturing some of the results. So these are some questions that, when you're going out there advocating at the club level, in your personal level, professional level, some of them I hope can come in handy. And yeah, I think that's kind of where I stop talking and open the floor for any questions, some space for discussion. Anybody have any question about what I shared, whether it was the personal stories, whether about this particular project, or even something that you want to share?
Oh,
Yes,
looks like
Sylvia?
Sylvia has a question.
Yes, Sylvia.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. The presentation was amazing. Thank you so much, Nazia, for sharing this and for teaching us and for educating us here. So my question is, it seems like for what we saw in your video, it seems like things are improving in Vietnam when it comes to the garment industry. So would you say that that is the truth, that there are good work good work policies, good work conditions for everybody that is working in the garment industry in Vietnam? Thank you.
I would say there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, right? There are definitely, because once the industry exports, right, they fall under even more scrutiny and auditing, right, for these standards, because these factories are all exporting. Most of them are exporting to US, Europe, Canada as well. And that's why they have those conditions, especially the first tier ones. Things get a bit more complicated, and when you go down into the third and second and third tier, because not all the brands or even their responsible supply chain programs have that capacity to go that deeper. So I would say that you would see that conditions are better in the first tier factories, the bigger ones, but once you go deeper into the second and third, the subcontractors, where they're sourcing their raw materials, that's where there still needs to be, like, we still need work.
And Sylvia, where are you calling from? And are you a Soroptimist?
I'm calling from Victoria, and Nazia invited me to come and watch the presentation. I have another question as well. Sorry about that. I don't want to take over, but
Please go ahead.
is this something to improve the conditions of work? Is this something that the government of Vietnam is also taking into consideration, or this is just something that the owners of the factories have to do themselves? I mean, what I'm trying to say is the government involved in this type of policies, in this type of the thing is that because if there are government regulations, I guess what I'm trying to say, yeah.
Yes, there are government regulations, and in fact, the UN agencies work closely with the government theirs as well to influence some of the legislations. Like for example, the legislations on maternity protection was in Vietnam was actually the result of advocacy by UNICEF, and then when they increases the maternity protection, we can then advocate with other countries in the region as well. So there are policies in place, but there is always that gap between policy to practice, right? Implementation. Because while there may be, excellent legislations in place, but the monitoring of those legislations, how are they implemented, right? Like, because the capacity, we are just for the footwear and garment, we're talking about 6,000 plus factories, but there's so many other sectors as well in the country. So that's where the gap comes. The legislation, I would say, are there, but it's the gap in the policy to practice for it.
Okay, thank you.
If other people have questions, if you want to use the little raise hand icon on your device, then that will put your call in order, your question in order. Or you can just, if you don't want to speak, you can use the chat as well. If anybody else has questions.
And I've also put some reflection questions here, right? If it helps as
Sure.
well. And if you feel comfortable to responding to them, that, has this conversation shifted how you think about advocacy? Is there any change that you think you can influence and, at home, work, or in your community, or even something that you feel, okay, maybe there's this one thing I can start thinking about or doing moving forward? So just putting some reflection questions out there as well.
Like Melanie Kenny has a question.
Well, more of a comment.
Comment?
First of all, thank you very much. That was very interesting. I was thinking this would be a great recording to show to our clubs. Like we usually have a speaker after our club meeting. And I was thinking, well, maybe instead of a speaker one time, we could have this recording so we could talk about advocacy more. So thank you very much for the questions and the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Melanie.
And Melanie is with the Saskatoon Club and a past governor. And perhaps if you would be available, Nazia, maybe you could even call in if they have the opportunity to ask you some questions, perhaps.
Thank you.
Sure. Happy to do that. I mean, for us, I think it's these stories, right? This sharing that help us, think a bit deeper about things. And yeah, so I'm always happy to share and listen.
I would say for myself, the first question there, how has today's conversation shifted how you think about advocacy? For a long time, I always thought of advocacy more as petitions and letter writing campaigns. That was sort of, my baseline understanding of what advocacy would look like. But I really like some of the other things that you talked about, like even face-to-face advocacy, talking to the people who can make those decisions and things like that. I think that's a really important point too, is to sort of broaden our understanding of what advocacy is. So I really appreciated that, Nazia. It looks like Cheryl Ball, who's the current and almost retired governor of Eastern Canada region, may have a question. Cheryl, did you want to say something? Oh, she disappeared.
And Pam commented that, oh, sorry.
I don't know what happened to Cheryl. Sorry, what were you going to say about Pam?
That she mentioned that some of her members were unable to attend and they asked to view the recording also at one of their meetings. Pam Mahoney.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. So what will happen is after we're done the call, I'm gonna upload the recording onto YouTube and then I'll send out the link with the additional um meeting assets that Nazia has provided so that everybody will have both the Zoom link and those additional resources and assets. So please be on the lookout for that in your email inboxes.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry, for referring that. So yeah, I have developed this as it's a very brief 2-3 pager with some tips on advocacy for change, and it's focusing on unpaid care work that all the attendees and whoever's interested in the clubs, please have a look. Happy to share it. And there are some additional resources as well, right after the session, that if you want to take a bit of a deeper dive to read some reports or watch videos from UN Women, UNICEF, BC Office of the Human Rights Commissioner, that you can explore. And I would say that I would like to, in fact, just like to read out this quote that I found was really powerful from the executive director of UN Women on care work. That care work is the backbone of our well-being and prosperity. Without it, our societies and economies would simply not function. Yet it often remains invisible. The significance of unpaid care has been enormously undervalued and overlooked in public policy and excluded from metrics of economic progress. And finally, I would just like to thank all of you for your time on the weekend to join today's call. And I really hope that the stories and experiences that I've shared today can help keep the flame within each of us burning bright as we continue the important work that we do for women and girls, be it through the various Soroptimist clubs, through our personal or professional journeys. So yeah, I just wanted to put this out there, and thank you. And you have my email there. You can reach out if you have any questions or there's something you'd like to discuss. I'm happy to do that.
Nazia, can you share a bit more about your position with the provincial government?
Yes.
Yes, please. Thanks.
Sure, I can do that. I'll just stop sharing my slide. Yeah. So at the moment with the provincial government, I work on promoting inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. I sit within the human resources team, and it focuses on a lot of issues, mainly looking at legislations as well, because in BC we have all different legislations, whether it's a BC Human Rights Code, Pay Transparency Act, Accessible BC Act, Anti-Racism Acts. So all these different legislations that protect different equity deserving groups. So looking at these legislations, seeing what are the role in workplace, right, as supervisors, as leaders, even workplace policies and practices as well. So that's kind of where I focus on. And it involves, at the moment, the focus was mainly on raising awareness and on these legislations, on the existing policies, doing different trainings on whether it was gender equity in leadership, having a panel for that, trainings on nudging out unconscious bias, on 2S LGBTQ allyship, on intercultural fluency. So having these different topics and having learnings and resources for people leaders within the organization, but also all employees within the organization. So that's kind of the focus, because we want the workplace to be an inclusive, psychologically safe, and fair workplace, right? From employees from all backgrounds, irrespective of, your gender, your age, your sex, your racial origin. Yeah. So that's kind of the focus at the moment.
Thank you for sharing that. And I don't know if they had that position when I retired 9 years ago. But anyway, from the provincial government. But any other questions, comments? Thank you, Nazia. And hopefully we will have an opportunity to generate some ongoing conversations when this video is shared with those who were unable to attend, and maybe at some of our club meetings in Canada, but also around the world. And that certainly we have, for those of you who are not Soroptimists, 5 federations. We are part of the Soroptimist International of the Americas. There's also Great Britain and Ireland that's being represented today, Europe, the African federations, and Southeast Asia Pacific. So we have had our calls here mostly starting Pacific time at 10 a.m. That seems to work for most of the federations except for Southeast Asia Pacific. And as you said, we are all impacted by stories, and that it's wonderful to have that opportunity to share with Soroptimists from around the world. And our very first one was in late January of 2020, and that we had Kate Moore as our very first Sharing Soroptimist Stories, one of our speakers about the SI chat line. So I'm going to call upon Kate to talk about the chat line, because not everyone is aware of the chat line, and maybe an invite potentially for your calls. So Kate, can I give it to you to share a little bit about the chat line?
Well, yes, thank you very much. That I didn't expect to be speaking, but hello to everybody. Yeah, part of this wonderful Soroptimist world. And can I just say that I really feel very at home with you all, because I literally have met with the Soroptimists from Halifax. Well, I know a previous Soroptimist from Halifax in Nova Scotia, right round to White Rock. And of course, my good friend Margaret, who is on Vancouver Island, and you can see her sat by her harp. Something that we know very well if you know Margaret. So, nearly 30 years ago, the then international president, Hilary Page, was very interested to see what I was doing at home. Because my husband was on the computer, his eyesight was very poor, and I was in fact typing things up for him, and it was because he was a member of Rotary Online. And she challenged me and said, I think you should be doing this for Soroptimists. And thanks to a very good Rotarian friend in San Francisco, he gave me the facilities free of charge to set something up. It was before we even had an international website. So we are going back a long, long time. Hilary decided that the name of this group would be the Soroptimist chat line. And within a very few weeks of it starting, we had over 100 members, and very quickly it grew to over 1,000. It used to take a huge amount of my time. We had members from Alaska right through to New Zealand, South Island. And so it really did bring members throughout the world together, where we could share our Soroptimism. And then there have been the wonderful occasions where we met together. When we had the International Convention in Helsinki, 60 women from every corner of the world who were chatliners made their way to Helsinki, so we could meet each other for the first time. I can tell you the breakfast was a very noisy room, as everybody was greeting each other. We've been involved in various projects during the years, but one that just came to mind, because we had a wonderful member in South Africa, and she was a member of the Pretoria Club, who had a project to teach Mapulu women to embroider. And their embroideries, in fact, became very famous. But I was at a northwestern region conference in Alaska, and this member from South Africa sent a huge number of these beautiful embroideries, and we were selling them at Show and Tell at the Northwestern Region Conference. And I started my collection, and I supported them through the years, from wall hanging to placemats, cushion covers, you name it. And last weekend I was asked if I would do a display at the local Afro Fest in the town where I live in England. And so again, I was actually promoting Soroptimist work in South Africa, probably 25 years after we started supporting them. So the chat line has reached all corners of the world. Amazing friendships, amazing support. And I was thinking when Nazia was speaking about her spouse, I've been a Soroptimist for 45 years, and it took me off into all sorts of directions. For instance, it took me into the world of disarmament and landmines. It took me through action on armed violence, and I would have done none of those things had it not been for being a Soroptimist. But behind all that was a very supportive husband with whom I could have done nothing. And, I have to pay tribute to him. And those of you that have met him, and several of you have, you know what amazing man he was. In fact, when he died suddenly 18 years ago, a past international president sent me a card, and it said, the gorgeous George, probably the best known and most loved Soroptimist in the world, because wherever I went, he went, and he was by my side supporting everybody. So we're nearly up to 30 years with the chat line. I'm getting a lot older. I've just gone 83, and I need somebody that's going to take things forward. And an amazing, much younger Soroptimist in the UK, Jenny Walker, is working with me now to take some of the strain, get the databases up to date and kept up to date. And so twice a year, we're having our big chat when we get together. And we've got one coming up in the near future. Well, I've been talking to you. I've just had a look, and it's Wednesday, the 17th of June. So that's next week. And we cover every time zone, and everybody knows when they're going to join in. I think I'm on at 4 o'clock in the morning and then 9 o'clock in the evening. But if anybody's interested, I think the best thing for me to do is to put my email address in the chat box, and then if you want to contact me, you can. Just one thing to say, that we hope to meet again in Prague. We had a massive chat line meeting in Dublin for the last international convention. I always say, once a chat liner, always a chat liner. You will always be my friend, and you will always be the friend of every other chat liner. And when we got together for our lunch in Dublin, we had something like 700 women attended. So it's a way of keeping Soroptimist to the fore, keeping our projects to the fore, keeping our service and our friendships to the fore. So greetings to everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to say something, Darlene.
That was really lovely. Thank you so much, Kate. And thank you for putting your contact information in the chat. That will be very useful, because I think there's probably a lot of people who would be interested in participating in the chat line going forward. Yeah. So I think I'm just gonna ask if Shirley Stewart is available.
I am.
Woohoo!
Okay. So I'm gonna add Shirley here. And there we go. So Shirley is currently the governor-elect of Western Canada region, but very shortly, Shirley is going to be the governor. And so I know that Darlene wanted you to have an opportunity, Shirley, just to say hi to everybody and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being part of our call this morning. Nazia, thank you so much for your message. Myself, I have been over the years familiar with a bit of the variety of work of UNICEF, but on a broader spectrum, and it's so nice to be able to actually see firsthand on boots on the ground work and impact that the work of everyone is making from the UNICEF world and Soroptimist world, because we align ourselves with so much. So thank you for that. As Shari mentioned, Governor Shari mentioned, very shortly we will be doing the official pass in the night. And I'll be taking over as governor, and she'll enjoy her role as past governor while she's on her amazing adventures. I'm looking forward to continuing to work with Darlene to create some amazing and exciting sharing stories going forward. So, and it's amazing to see so many familiar names and faces on the screen. So thank you so much for being here today.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Governor-elect and almost Governor Shirley. I have had the privilege of working with you will be the third governor that has been part of the Sharing Soroptimist Stories. Again, we're impacted by the stories, and our very next call will be actually on September the 26th. And it will be at the same time, so 10 a.m. Pacific time. And we are having Magdalena, who is with the University of Capilano in North Vancouver. The North and West Vancouver Club have connected with the local university a business and marketing program. And because a lot of our clubs have some challenges about the awareness. Do people know about us, and what can we do? And Magdalena is currently a work integrated learning instructor. She's on a board of Advancing Career Development in Canada. She's originally from Romania, and we have clubs in Romania. So perhaps someone from SIE, which is Soroptimist International Europe, or Romania, might be a part of our next call. And she also does something called The Other Storyteller. And we look forward to sharing that. Hopefully, the attendees today will share about this call that we have widely, and that also we will hope to have more people attend our next event in September. We're always looking for an opportunity to share other stories. So if you have any ideas, please let us know. And we usually do it 3 or 4 times a year. So our next one will be September, perhaps November. And also just when we talk about the chat line and Jenny Walker is taking over in November, the friendship coordinator for Great Britain and Ireland. And some of our federations have a coordinator. Unfortunately, Soroptimist International of the Americas does not, but we do our best to have new connections with clubs. And one of the things that as Soroptimist, if you haven't already done so, if you're traveling to a convention or not, meet with Soroptimists. They are often very welcoming. I've had the opportunity to meet with Soroptimists when I've traveled. We've also hosted. We had just recently Emmy and her husband Christian. They were from Germany, and did you know, for example, that there are 300 Soroptimist clubs in Germany, and we have just over 300 Soroptimists in Western Canada. We also have someone coming from Great Britain and Ireland, and if you're planning on traveling, please, connect with myself or others. And I know that Donna Webb from the Canada West Online Club just did a road trip from Vancouver to Quebec City, and she met with Soroptimist along the way. I don't know if there's any other questions or comments. We'll keep the so maybe Shari or Shirley, if you have any comments, or if people have any comments from our attendees.
Could I speak? Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Could I speak just for a minute, just to let people know? We were
Sorry, can I get you to do the raise hand thing so we can?
I did, but sorry, I tried.
Donna Webb.
Sorry, Donna. Sorry.
Okay.
Darlene just spoke, so I felt that it was right for me to speak. I can't tell you how many times I have told everybody about the hospitality around Soroptimist, from Barbara, from Leanne, Barbara in Hamilton, Leanne in Thunder Bay. Everybody, when I say, wow, what's Soroptimist? So not where we hosted in the most genuine, hospitable way, I'm able to talk about Soroptimist in a way I've never been able to before. So I'm so grateful. We're so grateful. In fact, I said to Gunnar, somebody asked us if we'd go again, and I said no, I would never want to go again because it was wonderful as it was the first time. So he said, well, what about going from Quebec City through the East Coast? And I said, yeah, maybe we can find some great Soroptimists there. So Soroptimist is not just about your club. It's about the connections that you make. And no one knows about Soroptimist. And now everybody I talk to, I don't talk about my trip. I talk about wonderful Barb and wonderful Leanne and what a wonderful experience we had and how enriched we were because of it. So I just want to say that with my duest respect and thankfulness and gratitude. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Donna. I just also, sorry, let me add this here. I also wanted to mention, Darlene, that the just immediate past president of SI of North and West Vancouver, Sharon Lockhart, just left for Japan a couple of days ago. And Sharon is going to be meeting with the past Soroptimist International, the America's president, Kazuko Morita, when she is in Japan, along with other members of the current Japanese board of directors. And that is, I believe, Darlene, that you helped her get connected there. So yeah, there's Darlene is a great resource to help you get connected with Soroptimists in other places if you're traveling. I told my husband that this time out we're not going to meet up with Soroptimists aside from at convention when we get there. But for those of you who don't know, next Thursday I leave with my husband. We're going to Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, Japan, and ending in South Korea to go to the convention. So I will be meeting up with lots of Soroptimists at the convention. And on other trips, I have also met up with Soroptimists along my way. So it's a really great way to enrich and enhance your travel experience for sure.
Yeah, and the other one is through the chat line. That was how Sharon Lockhart from the North and West Vancouver Club, and Kate Moore has raised her hand.
Great. Okay, Kate, if you want to.
I was just going to say something similar to what you were saying, Darlene. But the other thing, as I'm with Western Canada, just a little story, always wear your Soroptimist pin. I was at an international conference. It was to decide on the wording of the UN treaty to ban cluster munitions. and a young woman came up to me and said, "Are you wearing a Soroptimist pin?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "My first ever support was from," and she said, "Canada, an SI of thee." And having been a friend of Sharon Fisher's for about 30 years, I said, "Oh, of the Langleys?" And she said, "Yes." And it was the very first monies that she received. And this young woman had gone on to start up a charity to ban landmines. So, of course, I put her in touch with Sharon. And the next time she came back to Canada, she went to speak to the club. But had I not been wearing my pin, that would never have happened. So you never know where you will meet a Soroptimist if you advertise the fact that you are one.
Yes. Or my earrings are from Kenya and the girls' leadership camp, and I have my scarf. And Shari, can you just mention a little bit about the connection to the scarves? And again, it gives an opportunity to have the conversation about Soroptimist and some of the work that we're doing around the world.
Absolutely. So
one of the chat liners, sorry, I was going to say one of the chat liners, Hillary, had designed and produced numerous beautiful brooches, Soroptimist brooches. They have the original emblem on, but they are a talking point. And, you know, I've probably got a dozen, other people have got a dozen, but she sold a lot of them at the last convention. But certainly, if you've got a scarf, a pin, a brooch, then at least it lets people know that you are a Soroptimist, and it's an advertisement. Because I was once at an airport in America, and there was a plane but no crew. And as I was talking to somebody, she saw the pin and said, "Oh, I'm a Soroptimist in Portland." So, you know, advertise the fact that you're a Soroptimist. Be proud of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kate. So Darlene just wanted me to mention a little bit about the project that we are part of in Kenya. So there's a Kenyan Soroptimist by the name of Kayenga Wasike who, through her charity that is called Willing Hearts International, has a girls' leadership camp that takes place in the fall of every year. She's been running it for the past 13 years now, I believe. And it's called the Lugaris Girls Leadership Camp. About 200, and this past year, 250 Kenyan high school girls meet to participate in the girls' leadership camp. And that camp is now funded by both the Soroptimist Foundation of Canada and the Soroptimist International Foundation, who are providing scholarships for the girls to attend this camp. Those girls spend 10 days at the camp learning leadership skills, partially through the Soroptimist International of the Americas program, Dream It Be It, where we actually deliver Dream It Be It curriculum to those girls. But they also learn practical skills and life skills, such as learning how to make vertical gardens that will feed their families, and learning how to sew underwear out of old t-shirts by hand. A lot of the girls in the rural areas do not have access to underwear. And therefore, even though programs such as Days for Girls, which provide reusable menstrual products, are able to provide those products, if you don't have underwear to put those menstrual products in, they're not really of much use to you. So learning how to sew your own underwear is a huge thing. So those girls come to this camp for 10 days, learn these skills, and then they go back to their home schools, their home villages, and they pass on what they have learned. So every single camp, yes, it's 200 girls there at the camp that are getting the information, but it's tenfold the impact that those camps have. So the scarf that Darlene is wearing is being sold as a fundraiser to raise money for the camp. You can purchase one by making a donation to the Soroptimist Foundation of Canada and say that it is for the Lugari Girls Leadership Camp. It's a $30 donation that will get you one of the scarves. Um, yeah, so we think it's a great cause, and we're super excited to have been able to have this partnership with the Lugari Girls Leadership Camp, which I was very fortunate to attend in the fall of 2024, and it was absolutely a life-changing experience. If you're interested in that, you can certainly contact me or contact Sharon Fisher, and we'd be happy to give you more information. So it is about quarter after 11, and I am thinking that that's probably a good time for us to um, stop our call today. And of course, I want to give a huge thank you to Nazia for um, providing us with really solid information about advocacy and about the work that you have done. So Nazia, thank you so much for participating today. We really appreciate you taking the time and the effort to share your story with us. Thank you so much.
And thank you, and thank you everyone here, right, and everyone who will watch the recording as well. Yeah, for this opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I am going to say thank you again to everybody else, and we will see you on the next Sharing Sir Optimus Stories call. I think September 26th, you said, Darlene? Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll see everybody there. Thank you
Okay.
all so much.
Thank you. Okay.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.